Welcome to Motorsport Coaching, the podcast for racers with racers. Miss Motivate can help get you to the next level. Every episode, she talks to the best racers of today and those that can get you there. She'll help you get better
Racing New
at fitness, nutrition, sports psychology, sponsorship, social media, public relations, and media training. Connect with Miss Motivate at motivatetraining.com.au. That's MOTIV8 training.com.au. And now, to help get you to the next level, Miss Motivate herself, Belinda Risley.
Well, welcome to the show, Nick.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Very excited to hear all about you and what do you do? What does Traction Media do?
So Traction Media, I'll start from the beginning, really. Traction Media, I started that as a photography business probably 7 years ago. From there, it evolved from getting a lot of questions from drivers and teams about sponsorship and marketing and getting help in that regards. And I was kind of not interested at the beginning, and then I kept getting questions. And from there, I evolved it into motorsport management and sponsorship and marketing. And it really has taken off and gone to another level that I didn't expect within a year. So it's crazy, and how much people need services like what we offer.
Excuse me. Fantastic. And how did you get into motorsport? Did you used to compete yourself, or is it something that you just always liked from the sideline?
Motorsport, I've been around since I was a kid. My dad would take me to events and whatnot, and then I started getting into photography, and I never really clicked with any other photography besides motorsport photography. And from there, I just went to events on every weekend and kept practicing and training my skills. And this is while I was in the army still, and I evolved it from there and got to shoot overseas in China and Europe. Done some stuff for magazines in America. And I got to a point where I was looking at starting a family, and that travel takes its toll on family life. So I decided to evolve Traction Media into what it is now, in the marketing and motorsport management. So, yeah.
And is that your background? So where have you come from?
So my background is I've had a strong military background in communications and administration through the Australian Army. I did a degree in communications and a lot of stuff to do with, I guess, networking and whatnot there. And then I went on to, towards the end of my career, I went on to do some an admin role to, I guess, management of soldiers and whatnot in that regard. And a lot of my management skills have come from that role in a very strict environment, managing soldiers where it can be life and death. And I tried to take some of that into my business as well, where it's a no bullshit situation. I tell how it is, because you start to feather it off and make it all fairy, then you're not getting your point across.
Cool. And so currently you're doing motorsport photography as well as the marketing side of things. What one do you prefer?
I always love photography because it's a kind of an outlet for me. But recently I've been really enjoying doing the management side of things, getting involved in helping drivers make something of their career, where before they were very stuck in a rut and they didn't know how to market themselves and let the world know who they were. Mm-hmm. And I find my photography helps with that, because I can go to the track and be a manager and whatnot, and I can go out there, take my camera there and shoot content for them for their websites and for social media, which it makes it a lot easier on them. Yeah.
Fantastic. It's good to have some multi-skills available to our drivers. So, how important is good photography for promotion of a driver? You were mentioning there the social media accounts, sponsorship proposals.
Good photography is always key. Photography and video, really. Like, the world is evolving now, and video is becoming more dominant in the social media market and website market as well, because it's all interactive in the websites. But having good video and photography complements a look that the drivers should be going for. So it's all presentation. So look professional in your professional photo. You look at like the top drivers and you look at their websites and the teams and their websites. It's all professionally done. There's no nothing out of place.
And how important do you think, I've always asked this question, is a website for a motorsport competitor?
A website I think is very important because it's a business card. It tells people who you are. I always say to my drivers when they come and see me, I say, look, a website is key because when you're pitching to a sponsor, the sponsor will go and do the Google search and they want to see a website because that website is a way of branding yourself and branding for the sponsor as well.
Yeah, and so you mentioned about doing video and the importance of video. Does Track-Tune Media do video services?
We have the ability to subcontract out and do video.
And what kind of content should they be putting out, do you recommend with the videos?
With the videos, you want to stick around 60 seconds and try and tell a story. So, for example, a race weekend, you tell the story of through the practice, qualifying, and then the races, and you keep that into 60 seconds with maybe a little bit of music overlay or a commentator talking about the driver that is in question, and just so that there is a bit of a story building up to lead into the, into the season and into the next race.
Awesome. Excuse me. And so a little bit more about Track-Tune Media. That is a mouthful, can I just tell you, for me?
Yes, it is.
Coming off my bronchitis, I'm like, it's so hard to say. Tell us a little bit more about the services that you offer to competitors.
So at the beginning, we try to offer drivers a service that will get them noticed, so it builds their portfolio, builds them as a personality instead of just a driver. Because at the end of the day, the driver has to be willing to work for those sponsors, because sponsorship is not just a sticker on a car anymore. It's you're an employee essentially of that sponsor because they're paying you to do something for their business. And so what we do at Track-Tune Media is to build that relationship between the driver and potential sponsors and get them working together to, build an image that both the sponsor and driver can perform at.
Fantastic. And what do you think is one of the best parts of your job?
One of the best parts? Probably the travel and getting out to the racetrack. I love going to the racetrack. There's always something interesting to see out there. I went out to V8 Supercars at Queensland Raceway this weekend, and people give the super utes a hard time, but I found them really interesting because it was door-to-door racing. Even though it was a little bit slower than normal, it was interesting. And a lot of people don't really understand that side of things. They just want to see carnage, which there was carnage.
It was.
Yes, there was a lot of it. But yeah, that's probably my favourite part is the travel and getting out to the track and seeing drivers do what they do.
And you've already mentioned a few, but what are some of the challenges that you face in your role?
The challenges is getting I guess getting teams and drivers to understand that they might think they can do what they want to achieve in getting a sponsor, but at the end of the day, they need someone to help them because they need to focus on their driving. And what I'm there to do is to allow them to have fun and focus on the driving, where a lot of them they don't understand that they need that person in their life because they feel that they can do it themselves. So getting across to them that, yes, I'm here to help you is a big thing.
And what are some of those strategies that you've implemented to get that point across?
So a lot of it is all, I guess, figures and numbers to tell them this is what a driver with a manager can achieve, and this is what you are achieving. So you compare them to someone that's got a manager and to someone to themselves who doesn't have a manager, and show them that with these improvements, they can achieve a goal at the end with either getting sponsors or getting into a full series race, getting a pro drive, a lot of different things. Because I find that this day and age, there's very little pro drives around. It's all, I like to say, gentleman driver. Like, even though you may consider yourself a pro, you're still paying for a seat in a race car. So you've got to budget for that, and a lot of people don't know how to budget for that.
And do you have some recommendations on how people can budget?
I think with the budgeting side of things, it's always key at the start of the season even end of last season, to start looking at what your costs are, like your flights, meals for your team, accommodation, those little things that people seem to forget in their budget. And then work out, okay, I need this round going to cost me $22,000. Break that down into what the costs are, like your tyre bill and things like that, and factor in what if I have a shunt and then I have to pay an excess on insurance and stuff. You need to understand that what if factor as well, because if you don't look at that factor and it comes up, and you're going to stress out.
And do you also assist drivers with their sponsors doing their activations?
Most definitely. I get out there, and a lot of the sponsorship stuff, I walk them through and I do the marketing for them. So I offer my services not only to the driver but to the sponsor as well, because it adds more value to what the driver is offering. Because otherwise, it's just the driver that's offering a certain amount of services. Where if we work as a team, we can offer more services and get a pitch across the line and get more money possibly, or I guess parts and other things for the driver.
And Nick, you mentioned that you've worked overseas with the photography side of the business. When you're there, have you noticed that sponsorship of cars, of drivers, just the overall event is very different to in Australia?
Oh, overseas is very different to Australia. I find in Europe particularly, it was a very smooth run organisation. Like with Blancpain and Super Trofeo, the Le Mans series, and even VLN, which is just a Nürburgring race. Every car is well presented, and they all have a team which has a marketing manager, and the drivers have, most of the drivers that are racing there, even the gentleman drivers, have some form of a manager to help them achieve a goal. And I think in Australia we're kind of lacking behind with self-promotion and understanding that social media is a big platform for marketing yourself now, and it's underutilised in Australia. Whereas you go overseas and I look at some of the Audi factory drivers, even they're factory driver, so they don't have to worry about much. But their social media is always on point, so that they have someone write all their posts for them. They don't write them, and things like that, because it all comes into how you present on social media, because people will look at that, and if it's negative, they won't like the post, and if it has some kind of derogative undertone to it, it doesn't come across very nice, and people won't like it or share it or comment on it. If they do comment, they'll probably be a negative comment, and it's something you don't want to see. And looking at that at the international standard, this is where Australia needs to pick up the game a little bit, and even with events, support for the drivers and getting them, I guess, making superstars out of these drivers, even the younger drivers, because I look at like the Formula 4 of Australia, and we don't have much open wheel racing here, where it's big overseas, and just making those personality out of those drivers from the category managers as well, because essentially the category managers should be making superstars out of all the drivers in the category, and helping promote the series and the drivers. So I think there's a little bit of work in Australia to do, especially with maybe the flooding of certain categories, and just, I guess, making it a bit easier and looking at what is working and what is not, and don't keep funding it and just get rid of it.
And is that why you encourage more drivers to try their hand over in Europe?
Most definitely. Even China, I've found, because China it's a lot cheaper to race over in China, and there's some really good categories over there. Like you got your Formula Renault and your LMP3 series, even the Clio Cup over there is, they get fields of 20, 25 cars, and you're looking at a good market in China, especially because there's more billionaires over in China than there is anywhere in the world, and a lot of these billionaires are looking for drivers to, I guess, have a relationship with, because they may not have been able to race themselves, but they can back someone that is racing. And even if a driver helps them out with training as a gentleman driver, it's always ways into building your career to bigger things in motorsport. Europe, you're looking at an endless market there. It's not closed off like Australia is. You got 30, 40 countries in a small area, and they're all different languages, so there's all different variety of events happening. Like they've got NASCAR over there, so they've got the Whelen NASCAR over there, which is getting a lot of attention as well. And it's normally an American thing, but it's starting to branch out, and people are looking at that as well, because it's also a relatively cheap option over there compared to like your Super Trofeos and Blancpain and stuff like that, which can be very expensive.
And do you already have contacts or relationships with either of those countries' services?
Yeah, so I have a very good relationship over in Germany with within the VLN community.
Yep.
I also have a lot of publications that I work with over in Germany and in England. Mm-hmm. I spent the last part of last year over there building those relationships further by doing a bit of VLN and went and did some motorbike stuff. So the IDM over there, which is the German Superbike Series, at Hockenheim, I went and did the final round of that at Hockenheim, and I think building those relationships internationally will help anyone that wants to seek out my services and go over to Europe and go over to China, and it gives them a stepping stone or a foot in the door to go, all right, I know Nick, and he can help me get to Super Trofeo or Le Mans Series or LMP3 and things like that. There's all stepping stones that drivers can take.
And do you find it's more expensive doing that, going to Europe or going to China, or is it on par?
I think China is cheaper, definitely. Looking at LMP3, you're looking at probably, I think it's roughly around, don't quote me on this, roughly around 200,000 Australian to race for a full season.
Which is equivalent to F4 here.
Yeah, F4, and you're getting more cars in the field and more experienced drivers as well, because you've got your James Winslows, your Tim Macros, and they're going over there and they're racing because it's a lot cheaper and there is more interest over there in regards to I guess bigger names coming on board and sponsors, because the Chinese market, even though it's only very new, it's been around maybe in a full run 15 years compared to the rest of the world, which has been around for 100 years in motorsport. China is really finding its feet and getting some great series in there. Like you got your Le Mans Asia, Blancpain Asia, all these Asian series coming through, and the Chinese tracks are like your Shanghai track. They're world class. You've got your F1 that races there, so they're building facilities to complement the styles of categories that are coming there.
As opposed to, sorry, I'm going to call. Oh, it's driving me crazy. If someone was interested in racing overseas, of course they can contact you, which will provide your details towards the end. Are there any race resources like websites or Facebook pages you recommend that competitors can go have a look at?
For China, I think looking at there's FRD Motorsport, which runs Formula Renault, LMP3 and the Clio Cup over in China. Their website is very good to go look at, even though it's the grammar translation isn't all there to English, because they're very pretty new at this sort of thing. So they're looking at the website gets you an idea of what is going on over there. And then you've got your Blancpain series, which is looking at the Blancpain series website, which will give you an insight into what happens in Asia, Europe and America, because they're everywhere now, the Blancpain series. Same with the Bond series. Yeah.
And you mentioned before about the importance of having a great social media account. Based on those series that you mentioned, can you recommend some names of drivers that we can go have a look at to see what they're doing on social media?
I think looking at the James Winslow for the one series. Looking at who else we got.
I put you on the spot there, sorry. Oh, so you mentioned the Audi drivers?
Yes.
So is that just the Audi Facebook page, or is that?
That would be the Audi Motorsports page, I believe. Mm-hmm. There's a... damn it, I'm on the stop.
That's all right.
Trying to think. Give me a second. All right, we'll try that. Looking at going on a Google search is quite easy. You go on there and you look at ways of sponsorship, motorsport sponsorship. In Google will come up with a lot of things. You get blogs from the UK, which a lot of them are very good because they're very developed in that sponsorship realm, because they've got all the F1 teams there and understanding the whole package that goes from GT racing to F1 to your support categories like F2 and other categories like that. These sponsorship blogs are very interesting to read because it tells a different story, which Australia is still catching up on. So always look at what overseas drivers are doing and follow their footsteps.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to promote or say?
Not really. I think it speaks for itself.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you very much, Nick, for your time today. How can people get in contact with you?
So they can contact me through Facebook on TrackTune Media or via email at admin@tracktunemedia.com.
Fantastic. And the last question, most important question, what is your favourite racetrack in the world?
My favourite racetrack in the world, it has to be the Nordschleife in Germany. I've drove the track, I've photographed the track, I've done management at the track. It is the best track in the world, hands down.
Fantastic. Well, once again, thank you very much for joining me today, Nick. And all those links that Nick's mentioned will be in today's show notes. Well, thank you everyone for listening today. I really hope you enjoyed that. Remember, all the show notes with the links and the special mention in today's shows are at motivatetraining.com.au. If you haven't already, I would really appreciate if you could head to iTunes or Stitcher and leave us a review. Each week, I will read them out and you can go into the draw to win a prize. Can we do that again? Thanks everyone for listening. I really hope you enjoyed that and you got some great information about working. Well, thanks everyone for listening. I really hope you enjoyed that and you got some great information about racing overseas. Remember, all the show notes with the links and the special mention in today's show are at motivatetraining.com.au. If you haven't already, I would really appreciate it if you could head to iTunes or Stitcher and leave us a review. Each week, I'll read them out and you'll go into the draw to win a prize at the end of this year. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at motivatetraining.com.au or head over to our Facebook page at Motivate Team. Until next time, everyone, take care.
Get ready for the race.
Do you feel one step closer to being the next superstar behind the wheel? MotivateTraining.com.au for more. MOTIV, 8, training.com.au.
The green flag.
Every episode gets you one step closer to the checkered flag. The Motorsport Coaching Podcast, getting you to the checkered flag faster.